Hello and welcome back to Reality Check. If you haven't subscribed, I encourage you to pause, subscribe, like, and share this episode with a friend. And of course, don't forget to comment on this episode. We love hearing your feedback. This is Reality Check, and on this channel, we have conversations on mental health and how that pertains to your marriage, your relationships, your parenting, your overall mental well-being as an individual, but also mental health in the workplace, or in your organizations, or in your businesses. And so we have conversations around that every week to support you as you take care of your mental well-being. My name is Rachel Mwine. I'm your host, and I'm joined by Dr. Eva Satwine. For those of you that are subscribers, you know who Dr. Eva is. She's a trained therapist, and she's a life coach as well, a parenting coach and a marriage coach, and also the founder of International Center for Mental Health and Family Care. So this week, we want to talk about a rather interesting subject. It's a term that you've probably had in conversation, especially when people are talking about their partners. Yeah, so it's not uncommon to hear people conclude that my partner is narcissistic, or my partner is a narcissist. And so while that might be true to a degree, did you know that if you are labeled as a narcissist or you're narcissistic, that you might have a mental health condition called narcissistic personality disorder? Yeah. And so we hear all these character traits or flaws in our partners or even in ourselves. And it's possible that you could be on that spectrum. And so that's something we want to talk about today. If you've been curious about it, or maybe your friend reached out to you and is complaining about her partner or his partner, and you have seen certain traits that seem to agree with this disorder, welcome aboard. There's lots of information that we're going to share on this show that might be helpful to you or to your friends. Welcome, Dr. Eva.
Thank you so much, Rachel.
You look lovely.
Thank you. You look better.
Thank you. You look lovely considering the topic we are discussing today. At least we needed to look bright.
Yeah.
So this maybe let's start at a basic level before we get into the science and the psychology of it. Can you explain who a narcissist is in just plain terms? What are the telltale signs that my partner could be narcissistic? Or like we were discussing before we came on air, that I could be narcissistic, although no one ever thinks of themselves like that.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Narcissists don't think about themselves.
Oh, no. Not like that.
In the sense of a weakness.
Yes.
They think they're okay.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad we're having this conversation. In my work as a marriage therapist, I meet people, almost everyone thinks they're married to a narcissist.
Oh my gosh.
And this is, of course, rooted in the fact that marriage is a platform where we exercise the highest degree of selfishness.
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah.
So let me start there. Human nature is selfish.
Yeah.
And as we continue, I'll be talking about the root causes of that personality disorder. But for us to know that human nature doesn't gravitate towards kindness, compassion, thinking about other people. No. We gravitate towards thinking about our self-centeredness.
Naturally.
And so when we talk about narcissism, we are not talking about the generic, sense of self-centeredness. We are talking about excessive and exaggerated sense of self-importance, right? And self-centeredness.
Yeah.
Because this person, a narcissist, according to them, there's one person in the world.
Themselves.
It's themselves. Yes. And so that exaggerated sense of self-centeredness, it's all about me. If something has gone wrong, it's not them, it's you. They can even blame you for making them hurt you.
Interesting.
You understand?
So it's your fault they have
So
hurt
it's always another person's fault.
Yeah.
For them, they are okay. they are absolutely okay. So that excessive, please mark my words, it's excessive. So it's not that generic sense. Number two, the sense of entitlement. Yeah, sense of entitlement. Let me tell you, entitlement is so annoying. You know, I'm supposed to have that.
Yes.
You know, and again, a little degree for a normal human being, but theirs again,
Excessive.
it's exaggerated. I talked about inflated sense of self-importance. And in marriage, of course, you're two people serving each other, married to the bigger community. And so this person can actually, a narcissist, will only think about themselves, for instance, relatives. So if it is about their relatives,
oh, yes, yes.
oh, yeah.
We're in.
We are in. If it is about your relatives,
No.
they don't want to know. And so, of course, this always manifests in a very ugly way. Different aspects. I've just talked about relatives, but it could be different things. I've seen some who, for instance, they have one car. And this person will say, me, I cannot get on I have to take.
Yeah.
So you'll find their partner always has to sacrifice. They want the partner to sacrifice for so many things, because for them they can't. So it is that exaggerated sense of self-importance. But also a constant need. Some of the, again, that's another trait that we need to keep in mind, a constant need for praise.
Which is so ironic.
Yes, it is very ironic, because very interesting. Sometimes we think because they come in as bullies, they have confidence. No, actually, narcissistic people have what we call a fragile ego.
No kidding.
Very fragile. If you ever dare to say something negative about them, they just crush. Because, you know, they have invested a lot in exaggerating themselves. So if anyone ever touches on where they probably need to improve, they die. Yeah, so they need, because did you see me? Do you see me? Do you see me? And so that's another area. But also arrogance.
Not surprising.
Highly arrogant and haughty. And humility, by the way, is not one of the things for a narcissistic person. You know, humbling themselves, they consider humility as a weakness. They don't understand that actually humility is a strength.
It's a strength, yes.
Yeah, so for them to humble themselves, either ask for advice or any call to humility, it just doesn't work for them. But one key element for a narcissistic partner is lack of empathy.
Ah, yes.
You see, all of them are just related, but actually we say narcissistic people have zero empathy.
Wow.
Yeah, they don't think about another person. What they are going to say, what they are going to do. They don't run into another person's place and say, if it were me, how would I feel? They'll just say anything, they'll do anything, and as I mentioned earlier, they can easily actually blame you for even what they've thought or what they have done. So zero empathy is one of the things that defines them, and it's so ugly. You know, empathy makes us human, good human beings. And so when you have someone who they just do anything and they don't care. In fact, they wonder why you're concerned.
Yes.
Yes, they can even say they come off as serious bullies, and they wonder why. Yeah, but I told her the truth. I told him the truth, and what's wrong with that? And so they can't see things from another person's standpoint, and it can be quite draining. So those are some of the things I'll tell you. And then they are also quite manipulative.
Of course.
Yes. Because you see how all these things, again, are related.
Yeah.
They are connected. So they are very manipulative. They will always try to have their way, whether you want it or not. When you're having conversations, they say, do you see my point? Do you see? You know, do you see? They will never seek to listen and try to understand where you could be coming from. Yeah, so that makes it a disorder. A disorder. However, I want to mention, Rachel, something we were discussing before we went on air, that all of us have a disorder. A disorder. When I was studying psychology and what we call psychopathology, which is a study of disorders, human disorders, our professor taught us that every human being has a bit, you know, a dose of a disorder. You only need to discover it, but sometimes it's not as excessive. So what we are talking about is that excessive. Yes. So we could have a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And so that's how a narcissist.
So what you have described is the narcissistic personality disorder.
Yes.
So those are the telltale signs of someone who is on the extreme.
Yes, on the extreme. Please note that when we are talking about a disorder, we're talking about extreme. Not little weaknesses, but we are talking about extreme.
So let's talk about it in the marriage context, because usually that's how we interact with people who are considered to have this mental health challenge. And for the sake of this conversation, we're going to create an acronym, NPD, to mean narcissistic personality disorder. Of course, we interact with them in the workplace as well, but it's more, we'll interact with them more in a marriage. And I was telling you earlier when you told me that we all have a disorder, that the way marriage is set up it helps if we are kind of both of sound mind. We, to a degree, we understand each other. We have a good head on our shoulders. So what happens if you meet someone who is, you know, suffering from NPD? What kind of challenges are they likely to face?
So the partner.
Yes, the partner on the receiving end.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course, it's. I like that you mentioned that we assume we have a good head.
All of us. Yes.
Over our shoulders, on our shoulders. But look, we have narcissistic people everywhere. You see, character is formed at family level.
That's true.
And then we roll into the world, and we go to the workplace, we marry them. You see, it doesn't, having that personality disorder doesn't mean that you're condemned to, I don't know what. There are certain things about you that someone loves.
That's true.
You see, so the question is, how did you end up with this person? There's something good about them. But if you recall in our conversations before, I've talked about the importance of knowing the person you've married. And I also want to emphasize, Rachel, that because marriage is a ministry, there's a reason you're in this person's life. They need help. And probably you're custom made to support this person. When you check, this person probably is not for everyone. And the fact that you connected with them, there's something, first of all, you liked, but also probably you have enough grace to support them. Secondly, communication is always very frustrating because you're talking to someone who, again, sees things from their own standpoint. And so when you come in, you're communicating a need, they're not seeing it, they always want you to see things
their way.
And they lack humility. I don't know whether you've bumped into people with zero humility. They can be such a piece of work. And so it is, to be honest with you, all the traits I explained, they manifest, are very negative and quite draining. quite draining. Because you see, when you're married to someone, like they have an inflated sense of self. That is pride, and a prideful person. How do you? So you just have to know. You have to know this person you're married to and how they come off. But most importantly, knowing that what they are manifesting is a negative, and they need help. So when you position yourself from the standpoint of responsibility to support them, you're going to have enough grace to support them. But if you choose to be frustrated and look at it as a huge burden, then it is going to be a problem.
That's true.
Yeah, because I must assure people who are married to a narcissistic person that it's going to be a little bit of work. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of work. And so acceptance of responsibility is always the number one secret to to managing. Yeah. So if you see, then you're able to position yourself, accept your partner, and knowing that there's no perfect partner. So you could have this one who is narcissistic, but another person could have a weakness. Now that's why I always advise, please don't sit with this person and spend your entire life hoping or wishing you had married someone else. Remember, when you do that, you're directing your energy you're scattering your energy towards a dead end. So if you accept responsibility and you realize, I'll talk a little bit about how to. And so it's very, very important for us to know, well, this person, there is something good about them. There's none of us who marry someone and there's nothing good we have seen. To be honest with you, we call it a hook. That hook where you hang your hope. Yes. Because there's no perfect person. But all of us have a positive and negative. So always important to focus on why you ended up with this person. There's something you admired, something. And then they come with this disorder.
So apart from acceptance and embracing that this is the person I have married and maybe I'm in their life to support them in some shape or form, are there any other coping mechanisms? Again, for the partner on the recipient.
They are there, but before I talk about the coping mechanisms, people ask, where did this come from?
Yes.
Because when we are going to cope or support them, we need to know where this has come from. Number one, we need to know that narcissistic personality disorder, part of it has its roots. We were studying about it, and some literature says, it's not, the roots are unknown. But I remember when we were studying, and when you read more, there are some genetic causes, genetic factors. And most of the time we don't understand where this is coming from. Now, I always try to help people understand that when we, all of us, probably you look like your dad somehow, right? So there is that physical manifestation or resemblance, but also in terms of behavior, there is some. So you'll find that somehow maybe the parents had that, maybe one of them had that. So there is a genetic factor involved. Why am I emphasizing this? If someone has that genetic factor, you don't blame them.
They don't have control.
They don't have control over that. And so for you to condemn them and say, what's wrong with you? No, that doesn't help. You just need to understand that certain things they have no control over. But let me talk about parenting.
Okay, we're listening and taking
Actually, when you read about narcissism, much of it is rooted in parenting. Yes, parenting, and once again, I'll help viewers know that all of us are born with narcissistic tendencies.
That's true.
Yeah, so let me explain this. Human nature, we are born, the first year of our lives, actually 0 to 1.5, we live off a principle called pleasure. Pleasure, so we desire pleasure. So we are born desiring pleasure and comfort.
That's it.
And so the first year of life, 0 to 1.5, we are 100% operating on pleasure, nothing else. But then from 1.5 years to 3 years, parenting is supposed, please mark my word, is supposed to introduce another principle in life called reality.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so reality helps us to know that there are other people other than us, number one, but also that you can't get what you want anytime you want it.
Yes, yes,
right?
Yes.
And so you have to exercise patience, you have to exercise consideration, you have to, and so that's when parents start in, share, you know, you can be selfish and all that. Now, that's a window where reality is introduced. Now, do you see how this goes back to the narcissism?
Yes.
Now, from 3 years to 5 years, sometimes to 7, another principle is introduced called morality. Now, you wouldn't introduce morality to a 3 months,
2-year-old.
you know. So it's morality, then we are able to introduce conscience and nurture conscience and help children understand that there's a difference between right and wrong. Now, what happens is that most of the time, a person just grows.
There's no deliberate...
There's no deliberate nurturing to help them overcome the self-centeredness that they were born with. So, and I'll talk about also the early childhood experiences. So, a child grows like one who has been raised by, and I think we talked about this, parenting style called permissiveness. So they just, everything they do, they are allowed.
Yes.
Remember, life is about brain programming. So if this child grows up knowing that they can do anything, so they grow up believing. That's what we call an internal working model. So their internal working model is such that they're entitled to get anything and everything.
Whenever they want
Whenever they want it. You see? Now, that permissive parenting style can be very dangerous. And I mean, I've always told people, you meet children everywhere. Just recently, I was in a supermarket and I met a mom stuck with a 3-year-old. She's like, Mommy, I want this, I have to take this. And then she goes, then she jumps, picks things from the
aisle.
aisle, picks this. She's like, I have to take all this. And the mom was
confused.
stuck.
Oh,
stuck.
My goodness.
And she's like, I don't know what to do. 3-year-old. Now, you want to know, like, up to, by the time this child becomes a teenager, they own the world.
Yes.
You see? So when children are raised to get whatever they want, what we call permissiveness, that is a recipe for narcissism. Right? And so actually permissiveness and neglectful. Because parenting is supposed to nurture you into what you're supposed, into reality, understanding that there are other people, but also morality. So any person you see with extreme narcissistic tendencies, most likely, either they had permissive parenting or neglectful. Because if parents are not in their lives intentionally to guide them, it can be, you know, someone just grows and believes. So they grow on the basis of the pleasure principle. Remember, pleasure is I have to get what I want. And I hate discomfort. So anything discomfort is not for them. So things like humility, you know, that's discomforting because you're beating your body. You're telling yourself you're conditioning your life against you. So that's number 2. Number 3, which is related to parenting, is early childhood experiences and it's in two parts. One is what we call exaggerated validation.
Oh my.
Yes. You see that?
Yeah.
Now, I've always told parents, please don't tell your child that they are the best in the whole world. That's what we call exaggerated validation.
Yes, yes.
So now if you tell this child they are the best in the whole world, what exactly are you saying to them?
That others don't matter.
That others don't matter.
Yes.
And I mean that and so many other things. My boy, oh my boy, me, I have to give them everything they want. And so you find that then this child grows knowing life is about them. This is most common amongst, unfortunately, boys.
Boys, yeah.
Boys. Number one, who are left to play, have their way. And then we say, you know, boys will always be boys.
Yeah.
That is
dangerous.
something to watch out for. And it doesn't surprise us, actually, us in the marriage ministry. You find that most people who are complaining are wives.
True.
Yeah, so it manifests more in the boys, in the men, because they have been left to have their way, you know, to do nothing, to have... I've never forgotten a mom who was always saying, oh, my boy, you know, my boy. And this boy has had 4 failed marriages in a period of 3 years. But she is still sympathizing with her boy and not looking at the girls.
Or the pattern.
The pattern, but also other people's children.
Yes.
So you're just looking at your son. Oh, my boy is very unfortunate.
He's
why
suffering.
can't he? I'm really wondering why he can't get a good partner. Yes.
Okay.
You see that? So this follows. It just continues from childhood to adulthood. Because their sense of importance is exaggerated. On the negative, there are children who have had what we call childhood adversity.
That's true.
And like they've experienced extreme criticism and judgment, and so they've never had anything positive. What do? So they program themselves to fight that and to assert themselves, but more from a negative standpoint. So you find they are angry and they are saying, yes, it has to be me. Let me prove to yourself. That also can be a recipe for narcissistic tendencies.
Wow.
Okay? And so it creates what we call hyper alertness. And so the person is just constantly thinking about themselves and how they can, you know, have their head up and be seen.
And be seen, yes.
Yeah. And of course they crave validation because they never got it. They never got it when they were young, so they do that.
You know, Doctor, information really is power. I was reading an article while we were getting ready for this show, and a lady was talking about her experience being married to a narcissist. And she had experienced all these things that you have detailed in your submission, the lack of empathy, you know, belittling her, just thinking about himself and all of that. And she struggled through the first few years of her relationship with him. And then she landed on research, you know, where they were talking about the narcissistic personality disorder. And it's like a light bulb went off, you know, in her mind. She was now able to, the things you've been saying, accept him, embrace him, establish boundaries for herself, you know, where he was concerned. And so I think as people watch this show, someone might be thinking, oh, my partner sounds like they are on this spectrum, or my friend's partner sounds like, you know, he or she is on this spectrum. What are some of those ways that people can cope? Of course, the first thing is having this information, which is great, and you can expound more on that. What are some of the ways that they can cope in their relationships?
Okay, so...
And is it possible to thrive?
Yeah,
I think
it is.
Yeah.
It is, you see. It's possible to thrive. Number one, I must emphasize that life is not comfortable. And sometimes we have to create the environment we have to live in.
Yeah.
However, I must once again say it's a bit of work.
That is true.
Yeah, it's a bit of work. So if you're able to identify the work cut out for you in this marriage, it's powerful. We read to be great engineers. We read to be great leaders. We take leadership courses. We read to manage a job. But we don't read to manage life.
No, I wonder why that is.
You see,
Yeah.
so that's why information is power. And I always, as a relationship coach, I encourage people, please read, read. And now we live in times where resources are just before us.
Yeah.
So it's very important to understand your partner, understand them. When you do that, leads to my second point. Manage your expectations. Because a person with zero empathy, zero humility, maybe zero is rough, but I'm just telling you that they can actually thrive without some of those things. They don't understand them. How do you deal with them, for instance, if you're having conversations? When you mention they've done something wrong, they probably won't easily accept. They probably won't easily repent and say sorry. So just imagine you put yourself in this place where you say, you have to say sorry, otherwise they don't understand it yet. Now that leads me to my third point. We have to understand that human nature is always evolving. All of us learn, right? Now, I read about this guy who actually said that we are born animals. And when I studied psychology, tendencies like excessive pleasure, self-centeredness, it ages on animal tendencies.
That's
now,
true.
I'm not being abusive or belittling, but that's what it is. And so he said, we are born 10% human, and the rest has to be learned. So that's the 10% deposit. But then parenting or family nurturing is supposed to contribute 80% to nurturing a human being.
Wow.
But depending on the environment we have grown up into, maybe we get 20% from family, maybe we get, just a little. And what happens then? The rest pours into the third window called self-improvement.
Wow.
Yeah, so don't condemn someone. There is a place of self-improvement. They only need to be enabled to learn. And I'm going to talk about enabling. Helping them to learn. And how do you become a learning point to this person?
That's a good question.
Yes. How? Do you just become a teacher who is always angry, belittling, labeling, telling this person, asking them what's wrong with them? Now, once you position yourself to being a learning point, maybe you'll find that you're gifted in areas that this person has weaknesses in.
Yeah.
You see? Yeah. So I talked about managing expectations, but also positioning yourself to be a helper to this person. Now, people think a helper is only the woman. No. Even men, all of us partners, we have an opportunity to make each other better. So once you know that this person lacks in an area, position yourself to supporting them, but this is rooted in acceptance. Okay? So how do you survive? Do that. See yourself as a helper. That changes everything.
Yes.
It
Yes,
changes
it does.
everything. Perspective is everything. But remember, this person has grown up having their way.
Yeah, that part.
Yeah. So one of the things that I advise people married to a narcissist is not to continue enabling. Don't continue enabling. Probably you remember when I was mentioning that they've had parents who have given them exaggerated validation or have left them to have their way all through.
Yes.
and then you also get married to them,
And
and
like,
you just,
for the sake of peace.
for the sake of peace,
Yes.
let me just do that. That doesn't help. No, don't enable. And in marriage, by the way, it's very easy to enable for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Oh, keep peace when you've already lost it. Then you're keeping a shell when peace has already gone.
Yes.
So don't enable. Enabling, it can cause more disaster. And I want to tell you, as a married person, been married 27 years, when we were doing reflection after 25 years of marriage, we realized we've changed.
Yeah.
You have changed.
25 years
in your
is a long
thinking,
time.
in your, yes.
Yeah.
And it's only when you understand and then you support each other. Let me tell you, people, most of the time, people have no learning points, so they've ignored them. And I've always said, let me repeat this, that marriage is that platform that actually has potential to make us better people if we don't run away from it or if we allow it to do that.
Yeah.
So if you position yourself and say, I'm not accepting this, that leads me to my second point. Setting boundaries. This person knows no boundaries. They can abuse you, belittle you anytime, because remember, they are having their way. So they are not looking at how another person is. Please observe boundaries. I tell people, always say what you mean and mean what you say. Be consistent. Remember, you're helping this person to reframe their thinking and behavior. And so if you define boundaries are everything. They help us to control behavior. They help us to exercise discipline. You know, perimeter walls help us not to get into another
person's home.
And so that's exactly how boundaries are. For you to say, no, I don't appreciate how you talk to me.
Yeah.
They will say, who do you think you are? Day one. Another day, you say,
insist on it.
you know what, I mentioned this and I want to emphasize it. Please don't speak to me like that. You see, by the third time, their brains have already registered and rewired to know that they cannot. So you're helping them to form boundaries by you being consistent. And I want to ask partners again, please don't define boundaries by quarreling and giving someone a piece of your mind. It doesn't help.
Like that,
It doesn't. You have to exercise self-restraint, self-regulation, and be calm and say, you know what, this has happened a couple times and I don't appreciate it. Please, before you talk to me, do this. Or when we are talking, please don't shout at me, don't shout at me or try to be manipulating. Just listen to me. And they'll say, you say, okay, I'm listening. I'm listening, and can I listen? And then when it's my turn to talk, you also listen to me. Remember your training.
Yes.
Now, I've heard especially women say, no, now can I be the one to, they call it what? Parenting.
Or
yeah.
to
How do I parent my partner? This should have happened. Sorry, yes, it should have happened, but it didn't. Yeah, so if you have to live with this person and thrive, remember, it's about power dynamics.
Yes.
So every time this person belittles you and all that, they are taking away your power. But you regain it by positioning yourself and saying, no, I don't like this. If it's not, if you feel you're not in the right place to have a sane conversation, then let's close. Can we come back to this later? So that's how we are able to help someone understand that they can't just have their way all the time. And that way, then it's going to give the partner a little more power because now they feel I'm in charge. My power hasn't been taken away. The other aspect of coping is self-care. And self-care is big.
Yeah.
Self-care is not just doing our nails.
Yes, and going to the spa.
And going to the spa and doing massage, then you come back, go to the same. No. what I've been talking about, even defining boundaries, by the way, is self-care.
Yes. Is it possible for somebody with NPD to, first of all, recognize that they have it? And I know that that's a tall order because it's really an exaggerated sense of self. And then if they were to receive help, what would that look like? Is there any kind of therapy, any kind of conversation that they can have to support them?
Absolutely, 100%. And I'm glad you asked that, because what we have discussed, it feels like a person has to work with you
until...
No. Yeah. Once again, self-improvement. I want to urge all of us to improve ourselves. As a matter of fact, in life coaching, we say if you have behaved the same or you've been the same for the past 5 years, every 5 years we should check, how am I different? Unfortunately, most of the time we look at how we are different in terms of money and wealth and all and career.
Yes.
But we don't look at it in terms of life and the quality of life that we have. So a person who behaves that way, you can be better. You really can be better. You only need to seek therapy. Of course, this information we are sharing is important, but also resources are there on the web and everywhere else for you to check and see some of the things that you need to change and the strategies you can adopt. You see, everything is about practice. Something we do repeatedly helps us to change.
Yep.
For instance, if I want to be a good listener, I'm going to practice this. When you're talking to me, I'm going to tell the brain. When I have the impulse to speak, I will say, wait, it's not urgent. And so I want to speak to people with this disorder. It's very easy. It's very possible. Remember, you have been like that for a number of years.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you cannot change. So therapy. Now, one of the things they have to do in therapy is to work with a professional to do what we call psychoanalysis.
Got it.
Now, when we have behaviors and we don't know where they came from, it's very hard for us to change.
Yeah.
And so we have the temptation to keep introducing them. Me, that's who I am. That's how I am. That's how I am. You have to put up with me because that's not true.
No.
That's not true. All of us can be better.
Yeah.
You see, all of us can be better.
Yeah.
Please don't live with a partner who is just coping.
Just to be around you.
Yeah. They're just trying. Every other day is an uphill day. No, we can
be better.
You can be better.
Yeah, we can be better.
Yeah.
I thought about something really crazy. You know how we go to the hospital for a full body check? You know, we are doing MRIs, we're doing scans, we're doing X-rays, just to make sure there's nothing, in our bodies. And I feel like if couples adopted this, don't wait for trouble, but from time to time, go and speak to someone or sit down as a couple and evaluate yourselves, like you did after 25 years. It doesn't have to be after 25 years. It can be something you do every year, that once a year you sit down together and evaluate the health of your relationship. I feel like some of these things can actually be worked on as you go along.
100%.
Yeah.
The issue is when in the workplace we do performance
reviews
every year. But what do we do when we are celebrating anniversary?
We pop champagne.
We pop champagne. We
cake.
Cut our cake.
Yes.
We do our hair. But we don't do reflection.
No.
And I really want to encourage us. It's hard, but let's do it. Let's get into the habit of evaluating our relationships. But Rachel, we have talked about the importance of this relationship. Do you know that this marriage relationship has 80% potential to make you a very happy and healthy person? So as much as possible, let's not have ugly marriages where people are unhappy, and then you have one day where you gather friends, and then
we finished this many years.
This facade. And so, we are celebrating them, and then we have social media, we post photos. But we are very miserable.
It's true.
Look, this is a platform where we learn and be better. And I mentioned this, let me repeat it. This marriage relationship has the greatest potential to make us better people.
This is true.
Not the job.
Yeah.
No. Most of those other places we are acting.
That's true.
Yeah. But this one,
Yeah. This is the real you.
this is a real you. That's
Yeah.
why it's ministry. It's ministry in your life and ministry in another person's life. So if we paid so much attention and allowed this relationship to make us better, allowed ourselves to receive feedback from our partner, you know, allowed our partners to be a mirror for us, let me tell you, we would be amazing
Amazed. Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So family, marriage, powerful. So I encourage that we do an equivalent of a complete blood count.
Yes. That one.
From time to
From time to time. Yeah.
We are encouraged indeed
Yeah.
to go and check ourselves, and I mean, we know that we have challenges with health-seeking behaviors,
Yes, yes.
and that's physical, which I've told people that's only 10% of your health. But how about relational health? How about relational health? Very important. If you allow me to say this as well, utilize every opportunity to learn. I mean, this information we are sharing, free of charge, but also there are so many other opportunities to learn.
That's true.
There are conferences happening. Pay up for this. Pay for a family night session and go in and listen.
Together.
Try to be better.
Yeah.
Listen together.
Yeah.
The problem is we become defensive. We become defensive. Me, I'm a man. Me, I'm a mchiga. Me, I'm
Especially the men. I don't know. You know, because as women, I think we are more in touch with our self-improvement side of things. And especially when we get into our marriages, of course, we want our marriages to work. And so we'll do the work. But you know, when you present this idea to your husband, it's like, yeah, I don't want to go there. I don't want to share my problems with so-and-so. I don't want to. And so I find that sometimes women get frustrated.
Yeah.
They want to help, they want to improve, but you can't do it by yourself because your partner is, you know.
Even
not
therapy.
comfortable. Or even therapy.
Even therapy. Very hard to have our brothers come in. You see, it's also rooted in the way we have been raised. If we have been told we are the best in the whole world, how can you at the same time be told in the same breath that you need help?
How?
And so it's that, but I want to assure my brothers that you can actually be better by allowing yourself to be a little vulnerable.
Yeah.
Be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Vulnerability is not weakness.
No.
It's actually a point
That's
of
right.
self-improvement.
Yeah.
And yes, women, we are more responsive to help. Men are not responsive. They tend not to be very responsive to help, partly because of what they've been told, but also in their natural position of leadership. I told you in our previous episodes that we support workplaces and leaders don't come.
Yeah.
They struggle throughout, and then you'll have lower cadre staff who are seeking help. But you know, seeking help is actually a sign
Of strength.
of strength,
Yeah.
not weakness. And so I want to encourage our brothers, please reach out. And that's why we're having so much depression in men. Yeah, because how about if a man is married to a narcissistic wife?
How
By
does
the
he
way,
find help?
I hope we haven't come off like narcissism is
You
only...
explained that it's more prevalent in men.
It's more prevalent in men, but
Yeah.
also in
Even in
women.
women, yes.
And so how about if this man is married to a narcissistic woman?
How does he find
How
help?
does he find help? You see, do you kill them? Do you...
That's not an option.
yeah, that's why there's
Yeah.
domestic violence.
Yeah, that's true.
And people trying to coerce each other to be better. No, but seek help.
Yeah.
Just understand how to help this person. And it's not uncommon for men to send their wives and say, help her. So that she can be a
I
good...
can't deal with her, you help her.
Then we'll have a good marriage.
Yeah.
But it's always important that
Yeah.
both parties seek help.
Seek help. Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you for coming to our free therapy session for
Yes.
this week.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay a penny. You just have to subscribe to Reality Check. That's it. This has been helpful. I feel like I've learned a lot more about this disorder, and I know that it's one of those terms that is thrown around a lot. But maybe your partner is not narcissistic in the sense of this disorder. Maybe they're just having a few flaws and weaknesses. Again, you still need to embrace them, change your perspective, extend grace, establish boundaries, and your marriage is bound to thrive. Thank you for joining us. Let us know in the comment section what you thought of this conversation. We'd love to hear your thoughts or further questions on something that we can expound on in a later show. We're always excited to hear from you. We'll be back next week. Keep it Reality Check. Stay healthy. Stay well.